Good morning. I'm going to finish chapter 10 of the Boxcar Children. We left off with Dr. Moore knowing who the grandfather was and reading the notice in the newspaper about the reward, and he's going to keep the Boxcar Children's secret. So let's see what happens next. Chapter 10, Henry and the Free-for-All. James Henry Eldon was a very rich man. His big mills stood just between Greenfield and Silver City. Now, James Henry Eldon liked children. He liked to see them running and jumping and playing. So every year, with 3 other rich men of the area, they held a field day to the town of Silver City. Even the mills were closed down on field day. It was a grand celebration. Every year, the boys were in training for a big race. Not just boys, but men too. Girls also trained for field day. There were prizes and all kinds of races, running and swimming and jumping. But the best one of all was a foot race, and it was called the Free-for-All because anyone could run in it. Mr. Eldon gave a prize of $25 and a silver trophy to the winner of the Free-for-All. Sometimes a boy won, and sometimes a girl won, and sometimes a man won it. On field day, Henry was cutting the grass for Dr. Moore. The doctor stopped suddenly in his car on the street and called over to Henry. "Hop in. Today's the field day, and I want you to go and see the races." Henry hopped in the doctor's car, and off they went. "I'm sorry I can't stay with you," said Dr. Moore, "but I want you to tell me all about it. I want you to tell me who wins each event." Soon Henry found himself sitting on the bleachers. By and by, a small boy climbed up on the bleachers with him, and a man called, "Get ready for the free-for-all. Come in, line up, get your numbers." "What's the free-for-all?" asked Henry. "Don't you know?" asked the small boy. "Didn't you see one last year?" "No," said Henry. "I'm new to the area." And the boy laughed. "That was a funny one," he said. "There were 2 large men in it, and some girls and boys, and that boy over there won it. You should have seen him. He ran so fast you could hardly see his legs at all. He was just a blur." Henry looked at the winner of last year's race. He was smaller than Henry, but he was older. Suddenly Henry stood up, and he quietly left the bleachers. He went to the room where the boys were getting ready for the race. What do you think he might be doing? Think about that. A man asked him, "Do you want to run in this race?" "Yes, I do," said Henry. The man gave him some track clothes to put on. "Where have you done your training?" he asked. "I have never trained for this," said Henry. "These boys have been training all year," remarked the man. "Oh, I don't think I'll win," answered Henry, "but I do like to run. It's lots of fun, you know." "So it is," said the man, "so it is." Henry could hardly wait for the race to begin. He loved to run, but at last it was time. Henry was number 4. He was a little nervous, and Henry began to think. "This is a long race," he said to himself. "I need a plan. My strategy is I'm going to run easy in the beginning." The bell rang. He had no time to plan. Off went the runners down the track. In almost no time, Henry was really far behind the other runners. But he didn't seem to mind. He just kept his own pace. "I like to run anyway," he said to himself, and he tried to see how easily he could run. All at once, he had another thought. "I've tried to see how easily I can run," he said to himself. "Now let's see how fast I can run." Then all the people began to see how fast he could run. He ran faster and faster, and he passed 2 girls that were ahead of him. And this is what the race looks like. Then he passed a large man and a little boy. People began to cheer, "Number 4, number 4." It was the kind of race they loved. Faster and faster, Henry told himself. "I can get faster than this." And he could. He passed number 25 and number 6, and then he passed number 5 and number 10. There was only one runner ahead of Henry now. It was number 16. Then Henry began to think of winning the race. He knew how much the $25 prize would mean to him and his family, to Jessie and Violet and Benny and even Watch. I'm going to win this race, and he made up his mind. He was determined. I must get past number 16. He ran faster. He pushed himself harder and harder. He could see the finish line at the end of the race. The crowd was still cheering, "Number 4, number 4. He's going to win." When Henry was near number 16, he put his head down and ran as fast as he could. He did pass number 16 and went across the finish line first. He had won. People shouted and cheered. A man put Henry high up on his shoulder and carried him to Mr. Alden for the prize. And then a man asked, "What's your name, young man?" Henry did not know what to say. He did not want to give his real name, but you know Henry, honest. So he changed it just a little bit. Henry James. Now this was Henry's name, but it wasn't his full name. It was just his first name and his middle name. He didn't want to say what his last name was. Do you remember why? All at once, there was a big sign that read, "Henry James, number 4, winner of the free-for-all." "Here is your prize, Henry James," said Mr. Eldon. "You can run very well. I liked to see that race." He gave Henry a silver cup and the $25, and then he shook hands with him. Do you know who Henry was really shaking hands with? Just then, Dr. Moore came along and climbed up in the bleachers. Henry did not notice him, and the doctor had a smile and he chuckled to himself as Henry James Eldon was shaking hands with James Henry Eldon. They were related. At last, Henry got away from the people and started back to Dr. Moore's. He had the $25 prize guarded in his pocket. When Dr. Moore came home and found Henry cutting the grass, he chuckled again to himself. "I just got back here," said Henry. "I'll tell you who won all the races when I'm done cutting the grass." Dr. Moore did not tell Henry that he'd been up in the bleachers watching. He let Henry tell him all about the races. "And who was the winner of the free-for-all?" asked Dr. Moore. "I did," said Henry. "You did?" cried Dr. Moore. "Good for you. What are you going to do with all that prize money?" "I think I'll give it to my sister Jessie," answered Henry. "Good," said the doctor again. Jessie was the little accountant in their little family at the boxcar. When Henry arrived at the boxcar with the trophy and $25, dinner was all set and ready. They had boiled the rest of the vegetables and put butter on top. The children began to eat, but hungry as they were, they stopped when Henry told them about the race and showed them his prize money. They were so excited, it was hard for them to eat. "You won that big race, Henry?" cried Jessie. "I'm so glad and happy for you." "You must be able to run fast, Henry," said Benny. "I'm glad you won the race, too." And he looked at the silver shiny trophy. "I said my name was Henry James," said Henry. "I hope that will still keep us safe." "Good, that's right," said Jessie. "So it is. You didn't have to change it." "Does that mean we're rich now, Henry?" asked Benny. "No, not very," said Henry, laughing. By the way, I did stop and get some more things for us to live on." Jessie looked into the bag. There were some brown potatoes in it. "We haven't had potatoes in a long time. I know just how I'm going to prepare these," Jessie said happily. "And they will be good. You just wait." After dinner, Benny played around with Watch. "Benny," Jessie said suddenly as she hung her dish towels up to dry, "it's high time we helped you learn to read. You're at the right age and school will be starting soon." "No," said Benny, "no school for me now." And Jessie laughed. "No, you can't go to school, but I can help you. I wish I had a book." "We could make a book," said Violet. "We have all the papers left from the bundles." "So we could," replied Jessie. But what could we use to make words with? We could use a burned stick out of the fire, said Violet. So Jessie went, she pulled one out, and she made sure it was good and black at one end. And then she used the burned end to write the words. Won't Henry be surprised when he finds Benny can read? Cried Violet. Now Benny was not happy about learning to read, but he liked to watch the girls make the book for him. So Jessie did some words, S-E-E and M-E. You know these words. These are some of our snap words in the book. She called over to Benny, but he could not tell the difference between see and me. Well, Benny, look at it this way. One has a letter S and two E's, and this one is a different letter, M, and one E. One says see, the other says me. But Benny was having a hard time finding those differences. It's really hard for me, he said. I'll tell you, Jessie, said Violet at last. Let's make it one C on one paper and one me on the other. Let's pull them apart. That way, that's what we do in school. And then have them point to the words when you say them. So the girls tried this. They called Benny and Jessie showed him again very carefully the word see and the word me. And then she put the two words down on the ground. Now, Benny, point to the word see, said Jessie. And Benny looked at the two words and he was thinking. It was hard for him to tell. But Watch barked and put one paw down, and he put his paw on the word see. So he was helping Benny pick the right word. Do you think Watch can really read those words? Now, Watch did not know one word from the other, but Benny thought he did. Was he going to let a dog be smarter than him? Not Benny. He was a little competitive. He looked at the words and learned them almost at once, just like your snap words. Good old Watch, said Jessie. It wasn't hard at all. Was it, Watch? So before dinner, Benny could read the words, see me run. I can run. Can you run? Good boy, Watch. Good boy, Jenny. Now, let's get ready for when Henry gets back. The children started the fire. They washed the potatoes down in the brook and scrubbed them as best they could. Then Jessie wrapped the potatoes with wet paper around them and put them down in the fire under the hot stoves. She pushed them down with a stick so she didn't burn her hands. Are you going to burn up the potatoes, Jessie? Asked Benny. Oh, no, Benny, said Jessie. You wait and see. When Henry got home, he found Jessie rolling the potatoes out of the fire. They looked really, really black. You hope you didn't burn them, asked Henry. No, come and see. She gave them each a black potato. They're very hot, said Violet. Be careful. Open them with one of your spoons and take the potato out. Then put some butter on top and sprinkle a little salt. So the black part was the paper that was burned. The potato was nice and fresh and hot and delicious. What did I tell you, said Jessie. Let's get some milk. Milk and potatoes. Very good supper indeed, said Henry. Hey, Henry, remarked Benny. Guess what I can do now? What? Said Henry. I can read. Watch can too. Yep, we've been practicing all afternoon. Go get your book and show him, Benny. Benny was proud to read now. It's not hard when you practice. Watch can read too. Oh, can he now? Laughed Henry. Let's see him. Watch is too tired right now, said Benny, but I will read this to you. And Benny got out his new book. Good old Benny, said Henry. I'm so proud of you. Come to bed now. You must be tired with all that work. I'm tired too. Okay, next stop, chapter 11, boys and girls. We'll tune in another time.